Thank you, Gabor. So, if you want, you can come closer. I already did 50% of the travel, so you're most welcome to come closer. I will, of course, not give a lecture of 30 minutes to a small group of 10 people. I was not even intended to give a lecture to a larger group. What I intend to do is I will give you a very first 6-minute introduction, and that's mainly, if I can say so, where we are coming from. And after those 6-minute introduction, I will show you what we are currently doing, and please, at that moment, start to interrupt me and start to ask questions. I'm sure Colm will have questions. And we'll spend the 30 minutes together. So, here we start. 6 years ago, I understood Simon Halsey's quest to broaden the scope of choral music and to promote the joy and sense of togetherness that it brings. It reminded me of campfires and family reunions. At the same time, I discovered in other conferences that singing is good for you, scientifically proven to be good for your health, mood, and social skills. A colleague and I formulated our vision, and we established the ARIA Foundation. We had to learn everything about singing together. We followed the steps of enlightened masters and attended a mid-sing concert and the Fest der Kulturen, which were the first serious attempt to bridge ethnic groups, cultural communities, faith and non-faith group, both events happening in Berlin in 2010-2011. 1 year later, in 2012, we were back at the Philharmonie, 50 of us from different countries. Until late that night, we sang songs from a different continent, connecting the world of amateurs to the world of professionals and confirming, yes, we can. This is the fence between Mexico and the United States of America. The fence between the ones who came first, uninvited, and the ones who came late, rejected. The same fence which is transforming the land of the free into a gigantic prison. This little girl is on the Mexican side. On Sundays, 2 bishops, one on either side, celebrate one Mass, and a divided community sings through the fence and touches hands through the links. This is the wall in Belfast. The wall between the ones who say, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, and the one who say, you shall love your neighbors as yourself. This wall is visible, but how many invisible walls do we have in how many cities? This is the current wall of Jericho, sadly not adorned. When the trumpet sounds, people will sing, and at the sound of the trumpet, when men sing loudly, the wall will collapse. Any wall which has been built by human hands will be torn apart by human hands. In Berlin, we listed the walls which spoil our cities, the wall between ethnic group and cultural communities, the wall between faith and non-faith group, the wall between generations, the wall between professionals and amateur, the wall between genders, the wall between abilities and disabilities, the wall between affluent and deprived neighborhood. On the 20th of December 2013, one of the first Festival of Singing Cities, Fleming and Walloons sang Bach chorales together at Beaux-Arts. The most privileged citizens of Brussels will soon sing alongside homeless people from a shelter organization. Inspired by the English national program Sing Up and the work of our colleagues in Newcastle Gateshead, which has been shortly introduced by Susan 1 hour ago, we highlighted the need for continuous singing activities, the right of every citizen to freely participate in the singing life of a city and to enjoy singing. We conceived a yearly voice festival which will cross all fences, walls and barriers, an annual festival to celebrate the city, the singing city, the regenerated city. The concept is now an event running in Berlin, Brussels, Newcastle, and Namsos in Norway. With the help of the culture program of the European Union, we intend to replicate the success of our friends in Namsos, where 45% of the adult population and 100% of children and youth are engaged in singing. We are building singing consortia in urban and rural areas. Mayors understand that singing consortia build up social cohesion, create a sustainable legacy, share scarce resources, and promote the city or the town. Perhaps united we sing, divided we fall. Everybody has a singing voice. Singing is not the territory only of children and young ladies. Real men sing too. And they sing on all terrains. And real men sing on the terraces to cheer the real men singing on the playing field. And barbers are real men, bearded men too. Wise women sing all over the cities of the planet. They know that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Mothers know how sharing resources creates resources. They know the power of singing. We sing to Cupertino, enough iPod, iPad, or iTunes, because we pod, we pad, and we tune everywhere in the city. At railway station, this is a picture taken last year at Ostbahnhof in Berlin, in the festival Chor at Berlin, in hospitals, in the offices, in council flats, and in the streets. Our goal is to link singing cities together, connecting the dots, illuminating all those little lights, the power being in network. Together we sing, together we tear down the walls which keeps us apart. So that gives you our starting point. So what are we doing for the moment? We are, with the help of the culture program of the European Union, preparing what we call a label. Because Singing Cities is, if you want, nothing else than a label that you can stamp on a city which respects some objective and some approach to become or to be and to stay a singing city. And what we have done is that we create a consortium of 4 cities, Berlin, Brussels, Namsos, and Newcastle Gateshead, to together in a cooperation project define what a singing city is, define what the objectives are, define the approach, and all of that. And in each city, we are not working with a single institution, we are working with a consortium. So you see here the different consortium. In Berlin, the consortium is led by a venue, a cultural center, which is called Radial System 5, a center focused on the arts of the body, which means singing and dance. And they are working with the Deutsche Chorverband, which is the German choral association. And the people who started with us 6 years ago, Rundfunkchor Berlin, where Simon Halsey is the principal conductor. They are connecting that consortium with the city or the Senate of Berlin, and we'll come back to that because that's a crucial point. The second city is Brussels. That's the one where I grew up. The lead in the consortium there is Beaux-Arts. And you see also 2 members of Europa Contact, so European Association of Choirs, or Choral Association. Accueil-Joie, the French-speaking one, and Chorenstem, the Dutch-speaking one, plus 1 opera. Namsos is a town in Norway. It's a very special town because it's not large, but very important. And it is important in Norway due to the place of Namsos in the music in Norway. If you want, it's a kind of Nashville in Norway, so much so that the government of Norway decreed Namsos to be the musical laboratory of Norway. And here, that's a major difference with the 3 other cities. It is a decision of the mayor to apply for the project. So the lead of that consortium is the municipality. And they are also working, for example, with a rock venue and with an association of amateur singers. Last but not least, Newcastle in Gateshead, which is an extraordinary regeneration, as Susan explained earlier, of the city of Newcastle. And Newcastle Gateshead is, of course, known for this famous concert hall, but more importantly, in our business, if I can say so, in the last 10 years, they produce a reach out to amateur in singing together, etc., reaching more than 1.6 million people. And that is a figure which is absolutely extraordinary when you know that the total population of Northeast England is 3 million people probably. So that's the reach out of those people, extraordinary work. So why would a city wants to become a singing city? And the four main reasons we found are building up social cohesion. You remember in my first little expose about all those 7 fences that we want to breach and all the walls we want to breach. So if you manage to breach those walls, obviously you'll get social cohesion. Creating a sustainable legacy, promoting the city, and sharing scarce resources. Currently there is a discussion in Birmingham about Birmingham potentially joining the circle of singing cities. And the municipality of Birmingham is involved in those discussions because they want the different stakeholders in singing and music to work together instead of all of them replicating things. So if you want, one of the main objectives of Birmingham is to share resources. We started to discuss with St. Louis, Missouri, and in St. Louis, Missouri, the main thing is the number 3. Sadly, that city is mainly in the news for negative reasons, crime, joblessness, and that type of negative things. And the discussion with the mayor in St. Louis are about, dear mayor, we should be known for positive things. What about becoming a singing city? Now, we don't have to read this, and if you want the presentation, of course, you can get it. But this is what we defined coming from a meeting from the European Music Council some probably 4 years ago, roughly, I think, in Bonn. It was the consequence of the Declaration of Seoul, which has been adapted, as you probably know, in Bonn. And we worked there on the Bonn Declaration. But out of that Bonn Declaration, the group of people working with me around Singing Cities created this declaration, which is much, much shorter, as you can see. But which is, the characteristic of this is based on something that everybody has to respect, because it is based on the UN Declaration of Human Rights, and it is based on the UNICEF Convention on the Right of the Child. So this declaration that we would like mayor to subscribe as a decision of the City Hall is nothing else than the translation into singing of something that they have to adhere to. So it is, if you want, in one way, it is to go back to the City Hall and say to the City Hall, well, you are a city of that country who is a signatory of that treaty, so we ask you for singing to do what is written in the treaty. So that is no more, no less than that. And this declaration is important, and in the discussion yesterday with Com and Kunrad and Gabor and Sonia, it was very clear to us that if we do not reach a commitment of the City Hall, of the authorities of the cities, it will be extremely difficult to have a sustainable program about singing cities. Now, this is an interesting discussion following also what Susan said earlier this morning about her famous festival of the 500 voices. It was a festival, and it was a very famous festival. We even knew of it in Europe, so that is a very important festival. But it was sadly unsustainable, and last year they decided to stop. And you have heard from her that instead of continuing to do peaks, one major peak per year, they come now to something which is much more modest. and which include continuous activities through the whole year. This discussion we had 2 years ago, and we had two major school of thoughts, if you want. One was the, I would say in summary, European one, saying, well, we do continuous activities, and maybe, if they are good, we will have a yearly voice festival as a result of the continuous activities. The colleague we met, for example, in New Haven at the famous Choral Symposium in New Haven 2 years ago, were defending a totally opposite direction. They said, no, you start with a yearly voice festival, that makes a big bang, and maybe after that you'll have continuous activities. So when we started to define what singing cities are 2 years ago, we said, well, instead of doing a big bang and waiting for continuous activities, or having continuous activities and hoping for a big bang, what about doing both in parallel, but modestly, step by step? So that is what we decided to do. So where you have, of course, a festival effect, but you have an effect of continuous activities through the whole year. And when we say modestly, step by step, we mean, for example, that the first year, if you can know what is already happening in that city around singing, that's already a major step. Because if you go to a city like Berlin or a city like Brussels today, and you ask to whoever, the city hall or a famous singing organization, what is happening in this city around singing? Nobody knows. Somebody will tell you, well, we do this and this, and we know they do that and that. And they will list you 20 other organizations. In Brussels, several hundreds of organizations are doing singing. In Berlin, it's more than 1,000. And nobody has a map, nobody has a list of them. So we thought, well, first, start to get the list. And one of the reasons to get the list is that if you want to create, let's call it a singing strategy, who are we, who are you, who am I, who are the few people in the consortium to define the singing strategy of a city? So we are not mandated by anybody to do that. So if you have a status quo and you know who is dealing with singing in your city, then you can start to work with them and create a singing strategy that they will co-own. And it is not too difficult, and we have a plan, and the first city to do it is Brussels, which now in few weeks will have completed the status quo. We'll launch in all those people in the list a little survey. We'll use the result of the survey to invite them to a workshop, which will take place in September this year, and that will launch a dialogue towards a singing strategy. The step number 3 is piloting things. And with things, we mean exploiting the very strong institution, so that, for example, a very strong institution, very sustainable, with teaching, let's say, that type of segment of the population, could start to teach also that other part. But as you know very well, in some cities, you have also very weak institutions with wonderful people. And one of the things which according to us is important is to strengthen weak organizations as long as they have wonderful people working in them. Because we don't want to lose, of course, the wonderful people. And the third thing is that even strengthening the strong one, and well, increasing, growing the strong one, strengthening the weak one, may be not enough to reach extraordinary figures like you have seen in Norway. In some place of Norway, they have up to 45% adult population singing. They reach 100% young people, and young people meaning up to 18 years old. So to get that, maybe we will need other organizations on top of the previous strong one and the previous weak one, which has been strengthened in the meantime. So you see, those are lengthy plans. If you want to reach a lot in a very short period of time, most of the time you will fail. Now, I will not read the left side of this because you heard it before, so those are the different barriers we want to breach with singing together and what we mean with singing together and what a festival should do. A little point about the right side of the slide is that when we speak about a festival, we speak about a festival which is a true city festival. So in the core of the festival, You will have, of course, professional venues, professional singers, the top amateurs, etc., as we have enjoyed here, for example, last night. But that is not enough. They don't represent the city. So what we need to do is we need to open more spaces where people go and come and sing. As we have heard, the famous, will be soon, on the 24th of May, the second edition of the Nights of the Choir here in Budapest. And this is when you open the space and you start to create much more singing. But then you go even the third round, where you go in places which are not very famous for singing, or not yet very famous for singing, like railway station, retail centers, businesses, offices, etc. And you go to a maximum of breadth. And for example, in Berlin, they have a scheme which is called singing balconies, where people from a house get together on the balcony and sing from the balcony. Now, the point about that is that if you declare that you will have singing balconies between 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the afternoon in a city like Berlin, and you have few hundred balconies, people will speak about this. And the year after that, you will have more people opening their balconies. When we did in Brussels last December, for the first time ever in the wonderful hall of Beaux-Arts, it was 300 to 400 amateur singers, having rehearsed previously, joining in the choral part of Bach cantatas for the most famous Christmas concert in Brussels. People were completely amazed. And we were also amazed because we did not rehearse as we performed. We performed spread in the hall, and we did not know how the acoustic would answer this. Well, that was extraordinary. So when people left after the concert, many, many people asked, I want to be part of this. So that's the magic, if you want, of those one-off peaks to sustain your continuous activities. Now, no way you can read this, so I will explain to you briefly what it is. Singing Cities will produce an electronic platform to share among the participating cities and also to the world, because there will be no lock on the platform, different things. Advocacy document, which are science-based advocacy document, and we are creating, in a first step, 2 scientific reviews and 1 education document with 2 research institutes and with the Sage and Get Us Head. So that is one thing that we'll share. We will also share best practices, and this project, Voice, has already collected a certain amount of best practices and started to publish them on the website of Corenstem in Belgium. And we have had a discussion a year ago, roughly, with Corenstem, and we will join forces so that we publish together and that we expand, if you want, the publication of best practices. The best practices will be published in a way that it will be utterly easy for any viewer to contact the people responsible for that and start discussion. And the one first that you have on top of this is here Cantania, which is a famous best practice from Catalonia, and has been now taken over by different places in Spain, like in Sevilla, but also in Germany, and now in Brussels. And Singing Cities want to take Cantania as one of the best practice to create extremely interesting singing work in schools. And we will start in Brussels and spread it in the different singing cities. We'll have also some resources, and we will have some pages on the cities themselves. So on the cities themselves, we will not replace what the people do in their cities. We will not replace the cities. The ambition is that we will have a kind of online query system so that you can find, according to your criteria, what you are looking for around singing. Imagine for one moment, I assume all of you have looked for a restaurant on the internet where you can pick the type of budget you have, if you want a pizza or fish or whatever, and if it is 5 kilometers from a tube station, only 500 meters for a tube station. Well, that's exactly more or less what we want to do as metaphor. We want to have a database of the singing institution in a city and a search mechanism to find them. Now, one of the things we cannot impose to any city is that they have to do it like this and reach the goal at that moment. Of course, you cannot give a label if you don't give some condition, but you have to give the freedom to everybody to define what singing is and to go into that major goal, which is giving access to the population to singing performance and singing education more or less at their pace. So what we will measure almost every year is the progress of the city according to the roadmap of that city. So if they stop progressing, we'll have to define who is we, but we, the label steering committee, will be very annoyed because the ambition is that, of course, you progress towards the goal. So that's it. I think I'm more or less keeping my time. Some cities are now starting beyond the four who started, so beyond Berlin, Brussels, Namsos, and Newcastle, to engage in discussion about can they join, how do you join, etc. Well, we have no proper answer today about that. The reason is that we are creating the Singing City label, but it has got enough interest so that, of course, now we are obligated to create what I call a label and to start to organize the label, which means who can apply, who can get it, who is the steering committee to accept an application, who is the steering committee to say, well, we have a reporting mechanism, and with this we can confirm the label, or we can even cancel the label, and that type of things. Now, the good news, if I can say so, is that there is more and more. There was already a collaboration between two European projects, Voice on one side and Singing Cities on the other side. As you have seen, we are collaborating in the publication of few things, and we will continue to discuss this collaboration, and we are currently starting to discuss, well, what would be the label, how could the label be formalized and managed. Questions? Either I was clear enough, or not at all, or you are all angry.
Can you go right back to the beginning and say why you particularly decided to start on this path?
Yes, I can. So I got in touch with Simon Halsey. That was a bit more than 6 years ago. And the crucial thing about Simon, besides the fact that he's an extraordinary choir conductor, is that he decided exactly 10 years ago to broaden the scope of choral music. And for him, broadening the scope of choral music was to extend the repertoire. He's coming from, if I can say so, the classic British school of Cambridge and Christian hymns and early music and that type of things. So he wanted to increase the repertoire. That was the first goal. Second goal, he wanted to go outside the professional world of choral singing, he, the leader of the top professional choirs, and to reach amateur. Then he wanted to reach businessmen. And as I'm a kind of businessman, that point triggered to me some reflection. So I wanted to understand more. What is he doing in businesses with CEOs, but what is he doing also with general management in businesses, etc. And when you have such encounters, some of them transform your life. In this case, that encounter did transform my professional life. And then with a colleague, we came out, we thought, well, we have to do something. Because the same month I met Simon Halsey for the first time, I was in a conference discussing about singing and well-being. And I discovered the connection between singing and well-being, which was not at all my type of topic. Sharing this with some of my colleagues as a potential idea, that idea has been kept in my company as being something that we should move a bit further. And one colleague and I, we went on the first slide, the one with the vision, And we created that vision, that the vision was in a generation from now, hundreds of millions of people would have trained their voices and would be singing together, which is not as crazy as it can sound. 30 years ago, nobody has a PC, nobody has a smartphone, right? So that's the type of time you need to transform the world. So we said so, but of course it was not our business. We are not in singing. I cannot sing, I don't play any instrument, so I'm in music business, but not in that business. So as we were ambitious on one side, but very modest on the other side, we said, well, so many people are doing so many wonderful things in the world of singing, and they are much better than we are, so we will not do what they do, obviously. So what we would do is what is missing to them. So we went and we interviewed a few people in Germany, in Brazil, and in England. And we asked them, well, you do all those wonderful things, what is missing? And interestingly, they all said the same thing. Absolutely everybody said the same thing. They said we are missing the argument to convince the authorities of the city, the authorities of the curriculum, the parents, whoever, that singing is good. Aha, we said. And then we said, okay, fine, we'll provide you with the arguments. Well, that's also easy to say, of course. We are not scientists. I'm not working in a research institute, and my colleague was also not working in a research institute. So we went to the research institute, and we said, well, what we need, guys, is the scientific evidences to create a collection of work which will produce the evidences for singing. And one of the first we met is Graham Welsh at the Institute of Education at the University of London. And meeting Graham, we started to meet them one by one. And it takes a while to create a scientific committee to cover all the aspects that you need to cover in the science of singing. But after 2 years, we did that. So we were covering all the aspects in the different sciences that we need to create what we think is the optimum number of 5 different scientific reviews. Creating a scientific review is an academic work. It's a very specific job. And we have started that work now. And when you have the 5 different scientific reviews, one discussing acoustic, one discussing singing and well-being, one discussing singing through the lifespan, one discussing music perception and neuroscience, as we have heard the keynote speech yesterday afternoon. When you have those 5 scientific reviews, then you can create advocacy document, which is still an academic work. And on one side, we do that. And the first thing you create is, why is singing good for the individual? The problem with this is that nobody will give you any penny, or nobody will decide to make any curriculum change if singing is good for you. Only if singing is good for the community. Because politicians are not busy, that's not their role, with the well-being of one person. They are busy with the well-being of the city, the community, the country, the region, the state, etc. So then you need to translate, academically again, the benefit of singing for the individual into the benefit of singing for the community, which is also a work. And the last bit is an education document dealing with the effectiveness of singing teaching and singing learning. Effectiveness means with what you need to learn and what you need to teach. We will not touch how to learn and how to teach. Because on how to learn and how to teach, all of you, we are still 6 left, we have 6 different opinions. But on what to learn and what to teach, we can agree. So that was how we started. I'm afraid I'm giving you a very long answer, but that's the answer. So we started like this, and then we thought, we have been invited to speak and to share our ideas, and because we are working with people like Graham Welsh and other of the same caliber, we saw, well, what we are doing is a bit theoretical. And we had to find some place to embed this scientific work, if you want, in something very pragmatic. And following SingUp, and Bas Chapman was the boss of SingUp in Britain, is a trustee of the foundation. And he invited, no, it's 4 years ago, different people coming from different countries in a seminar which was given in the SingUp framework. And you know, seminar and workshop, there is some group dynamic. So we came out of the seminar decreting that we should have a singing nation network. Well, we failed. And we failed for obvious reason, is that nations have very different definition everywhere on the planet. So it's not countries, right? Nation is something different. In UK, which is one country, we have 4 nations, for example. So we discovered that influencing the curriculum is so different from one country to the next that was not the real approach. We, of course, discover also that nations tend to be large and that not everybody knows everybody in a nation, that there is transport issues and that type of issues. So that's when, at one moment, we transform this embedding basket to place our scientific work into cities, because cities are much more concrete. Everybody knows everybody. Everybody can jump on a bike or take a tram and go to the next place to the city and start to work together. So we found out that a city is a much more pragmatic geography to work with. And that is I hope, the whole answer.
Thank you very much. That's really helpful.
Thank you.